The Movie Preview Critic. Informing and entertaining your movie world.
How come nobody's ever tried to be a superhero? Dude, if anybody did it in real life, they'd get their ass kicked.
With that, the superhero genre has just been deconstructed and simultaneously rejuvenated. For the last 10 years, all the major and minor comic book crime fighters and villains have been cinemized, and as a result, the comic book movie has completed a journey through the genre life cycle, and is currently stuck in parody and predictable familiarity, waiting for someone with filmmaking huevos to take it someplace challenging. Enter Mark Millar, a writer with Alan Moore sensibilities and creator of Kick-Ass and Wanted, great comic with the bizarro Watchmen world concept. What if the supervillains had joined forces and killed off all the superheroes? If the name sounds familiar, it's because it was adapted and made into that 2008 summer movie where Angelina Jolie looks heroin chic hot, and we finally got to hear Morgan Freeman say F***. The original source material was a ballsy idea that was creatively castrated by Universal over box office concerns, which it turns out paid off in the long run. It made $340 million worldwide, contributed the curving bullet to cinema, but deprived the audience of a truly unique, memorable experience. 2 years later, we have to wonder, will the adaptation of Kick-Ass be repackaged and lowest common denominatorized for the widest demographic for profit potential? Or will it, like its main hero, not give a f*** and just do the right thing because no one else has the nards to do it? The idea for Kick-Ass is, why didn't I think of that simple yet genius? What would happen if someone tried to be a mass vigilante superhero without any superpowers? It could be argued that Kick-Ass was inspired by the Stan Lee hosted and created Sci-Fi Channel reality show Who Wants to Be a Superhero, which aired from July 2006 to September 2007. Kick-Ass is also published by Stan Lee's Marvel Comics, and it premiered February 2008. This reality show was a parody of the genre, and it was just begging for a creative twist. Also influencing this idea is Watchmen, Batman, Mystery Men, and Blank Man, mixed with the attitude of Death Wish, The Punisher, and Fight Club, with a little sarcastic comedy teenage dose of Superbad and Fanboys. Because, after all, who else would have the imagination and free time to daringly think of and do something like this? Here it's a teenager named Dan, who's just a Joe average nobody. He comes up with the idea of being a masked hero, and promptly gets his ass kicked. Bad. After recovering, he gives it another try, succeeding while being recorded. This video is uploaded to the ultimate media force in the current world, and, of course, becomes an internet phenomenon. This inspires copycats who join up with him. Mindy and Damon McGreedy, aka Hit Girl and Big Daddy, which kinda sounds disturbing since they're father and daughter, and she would have to keep calling him Big Daddy. Then there's Red Mist, who's played by McLovin, which kind of taints the effects of the character, because in the back of our minds we're going to be thinking, wow, McLovin is trying to be a comic book hero. So I kinda wish they would have gone with an unknown in that role, but I'm sure we'll find a way to deal with it. This also brings up Nicolas Cage, who's playing Big, Daddy. He's doing something here we haven't seen since his role in The Weatherman. Acting. I like that his name isn't being splashed around obnoxiously in the marketing, and he's quietly playing his part effectively, which actually makes me excited to see Nicolas Cage on the big screen. At least for this movie, because I just saw the preview for Sorcerer's Apprentice, and it looks like he's back to his old movie star let's get a paycheck tricks. Together, this real-world crime-fighting team starts to intrude on crime figure Frank D'Amico, who seems right now to be the weakest link in this story because he's kind of ruining the tone and effect here by hamming up his character and playing it like a cliche bad guy. But it kind of makes sense because in the real world there are no supervillains, and if they are just regular guys, they're not going to be as cinematic and perfectly nuanced as the Joker. Would be great if the opponent was a little more interesting, because at the moment it just seems like hey, I'm a Sopranos imitation mobster. And it seems like his signature bad guy line is gonna be, hey, bada bing, bada boom. With this, I'm asking Kick-Ass to please, please, please make the crime boss's henchmen at least competent. Don't have them be bumbling idiots like the robbers from Home Alone, or the red shirt ensigns from Star Trek, who always die so easily and have no personalities. The main focus of Act 2 will be the struggle between our heroes and the mob. This will bring up some fresh set pieces to the genre, and unexpected, this is why I go to the movie's originality. In the end, we can expect the opponent Frank to be defeated, but at what cost? If this movie is going to have some balls, it's more than likely going to have to kill off some of the heroes we've become attached to. According to reports, this is rated R, so let's count that as a victory already. When's the last time a comic book movie was more mature than a PG-13 rating? It's also reported that Hit Girl has a mouth dirtier than a bum's armpit, which should be uncomfortably fun, and a little shocking, especially since she's like 10 or 11. But let's tread carefully, because that kind of shock value was already used up in role models. And since this is supposed to be the real world, hopefully it'll make sense that an 80-pound 5th grader can knock over a 200-pound 30th grader. The responsibility for transplanting the story spirit from the comic book to the movie starts with director Michael Vaughn and producer Brad Pitt. Yeah, Tyler Durden is powering Kick-Ass. Can there be any better scenario? This kind of makes sense because you get the feeling while watching this preview that the producers were kind of like, hey, here's some money, we like the title, just make a movie that lives up to it. Combine that with Millar's Alan Moore sensibilities, and you have a project that has attitude. Aiding in the screenwriting here is Jane Goldman, who's worked solely on Michael Vaughn projects in the past. This isn't necessarily anything to get too excited over, but the track record does indicate that these writers know what they're doing and that they like to focus on making quality characters. What we should hope for here is that the source material is so strong, so clear, and so obvious that most of the scripting is just a matter of cutting and pasting instead of reinventing. Because after all, comics in a lot of ways are just movie storyboards. Finally, there's the distribution. Here it's provided by arguably the most 1990s-ish filmmaker-friendly small big studio in Hollywood today, Lionsgate. When you consider all these factors together, it's becoming clear that Kick-Ass is the second most important movie of the year, behind Christopher Nolan's Inception. It's independently financed, cast with mostly no-name actors, the preview is promoting the story, characters, and theme, and it's actually contributing something new to cinema and reinventing a tired genre. If this is a success, it's because of the idea, not the CGI, not 3D, not the actor or director, but because it's inspired by an idea that's been done with passion and creativity. In today's movie-going world, that's totally kick-ass. The movie preview critic rates Kick-Ass worthy of big screen viewing. See it as a midnight show, because the preview makes you say, holy that looks awesome. It pushes boundaries, is perfect for comic book adaptation lovers, is a fanboy requirement, the pre-existing fan base guarantees box office, it makes for a great guys' night out, and is a total sign of movie hope. With a budget of $30 million, released in 2D format only, it's the creative meat between the stale remake bread of Clash of the Titans and A Nightmare on Elm Street. With 2 weeks without any major competition and decent word of mouth, it should make $25 million opening weekend in the US and take in close to $200 worldwide. As for its place in movie history, it'll be better than Mystery Men, but not as good as Fight Club. Until next time, consider yourselves advised, choose your movies wisely because StoryCorp gives us more of what we pay for, and as always,
long live good movies!